Welcome to this week's Fireside Chat with Jesse. I'm joined today by Dominic Janney, President of Canon Financial Services. Thanks for joining me, Dominic.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
It's great to have you on the program, sir. I appreciate you wearing the Canon red. I was trying to think back to my OSG days when we were doing some invoicing runs with you guys, where it was a specific color of Canon that we had to match the color palette to. So, very familiar with that.
That is still in place today, and very, very picky about it. And actually, Canon has its own color. So the Canon color is its own color. So I guess, being part of a company that makes things that print things and ink that prints things, you can kind of make your own colors, which is really awesome. So
Fantastic. It's the brand. Gotta love it. Dominic, for those people who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, do you mind just kind of introducing yourself and your career in equipment finance?
Sure. I am Dominic Janney. I'm the president of Canon Financial Services. I've spent my entire career in equipment leasing. I started in 1994 at a company called Advanta Leasing way back in the day. Um, I then was part of a small group that had the privilege of working together and ground roots effort of Marlin Leasing and part of that company going public. And, I worked in many areas of equipment leasing, basically on the customer experience side, so sales and marketing. I migrated into management and, ultimately allowed me the necessary tools to, kind of move into much more senior leadership roles. But I think at the core of, what I do or what we do in this industry is, we help businesses get access to technology and equipment that they need to grow and compete in the marketplace. So, as we've seen recently, there's a lot of economic and turmoil in today's marketplace, uncertainty about the future. But I think what that has led to is companies, everything from federal government, municipalities down to, mom and pop stores, being more conscious of capital allocation and reserves have been more difficult for small businesses. So, I think in our industry, we have to be creative, collaborative, and I know at Canon Financial we are hyper focused on customer success. So, this way we not only help businesses grow through innovation, but we help them thrive. And I think if we do that consistently enough, you can have a very fruitful career in this industry for sure. And I still to this day really enjoy the industry that I'm in, and I participate as much as I can.
Perfect. And then I guess how did you, stumble across Advanta back in the day? So what brought you into the equipment finance space?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. I this is kind of looking behind the curtain a little bit. I was involved with theater. I was a soccer player, but also a theater in high school and did theater post high school as well. And after school, I kind of had a small theater company in the town I was living. Had a theater, the theater school had a lot of children in it, and just by sheer luck, one of the executives who you probably know, Gary Shivers, was executive at Advanta at the time, and he just really admired my skill set and said, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" And I told him I was as a manager of a wholesale company that sold health and beauty aids and other products to, deep discount type stores. And he said, I think your personality would resonate in our company, and why don't you come interview with us? And I said, well, what do you do? And he said, I'm in equipment leasing. And I didn't understand any of it. So, a week later, I'm interviewing. A week after that, I'm working at Advanta. And have never looked back. I mean, to this day am still in contact with Gary Shivers. I mean, I really owe a lot of my career to him. He brought me over to Marlin as well. So, I think those are the kind of relationships, as you know, that we forge in equipment leasing that just never go away. So, um, you know, uh, I just had a conversation with him a couple weeks ago. So I look at him as a mentor. And if you look at all the incredible things he's done with not only Marlin, but now Navitas, and
Yeah.
now he's off kind of riding into the sunset, I assume. And, all those branches of all these leasing companies back in 94, it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. If you look around, all those people have ended up someplace else and are running these other leasing companies. So, I try to tell people that are starting off in the industry, if you have a great reputation in this type of industry, you're never going to be without work. And I think that's the testament. So yeah, I stumbled upon it, and I sort of never looked back.
Fantastic. And it's amazing how that interaction like that, and Gary saw talent there, and he's like, all right, kid, come on, let's go. And I think of the Advanta piece of like, it's almost, this is gonna be some people are gonna probably yell at me, but it's almost Advanta's like the Balboa of like the East Coast. Because you think of everyone in like Southern California, or a lot of people spawn out of Balboa back in the day.
Yeah, you think like locally, it was Advanta and it was Tokai.
Oh yeah,
And if you
Tokai,
look
that's right.
at, if
Yeah.
you look at what happened with Tokai and both Advanta, all those management teams, I mean, they're at DLL, they're at Leaf, there's people at Peak. If you look at how those branches have gone out, I think this is a testament to the industry that it really is a relationship building industry, as you know. You know, we people move around often, but those with great reputations are really sought after. And I've just been blessed to, have a good trajectory of my career. And kind of owe it to that happenstance meeting with Gary Shivers that kind of pushed this whole thing along. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I've always appreciated Gary. I think Marlin was probably maybe one of my first 10 customers that I had in equipment finance. And it was probably back in like 2007, 2008. Not
Yep.
exactly great times, but every time I went down to Mount Laurel, Gary would always make himself available. And then you guys just happened to be like 30 seconds before them. I think, have you guys moved your offices recently? Are you
Yeah,
guys
we're
still
we're in
on?
the process of moving. We're moving back to
Okay.
Burlington, where Canon Financial got its start, which was City Lease, which was part of Duplifax, the copier company that was sold to Canon originally 30 some years ago. Um, but I always tell people, the reason that being at Canon Financial, that you have to really take care of your employees, because as you know, if you go down to Mount Laurel and you're on Fellowship Road, there's 5 leasing companies
Yeah.
within a mile and a half. So,
Hmm.
um, and they're competitive leasing companies. They're not small leasing companies. Everybody's got a presence there. But we're all very friendly competitors, and I think it's a testament to the industry. I tell young people when we have them as, um, have them in for the summer as an intern. I said, look, this is an industry you could spend the rest of your life in if you want to. And we have a pretty good hit rate. If we have about 30% of our interns, come for a full-time job once they graduate. So, you know, it's still interesting that maybe some of the things that Gary Shivers and others have done, maybe that's what we're all doing now, right? That's sort of the next generation, molding younger people. And you'll be having a fireside chat. I think you're on 200 and some, 200 and close to 300 of these. When you're clicking 1,000, you're probably going to be talking to somebody who worked for me 15 years ago. So, uh, you know, so I just think that's the way this industry is. And, I think it's pretty exciting for a person. And it's not one that's talked about a lot in school, right? So when you graduate, you're like, hey, I'm doing this thing over here called equipment leasing. People are like, what? And you're like, back in the day, we'd whip out our HP 17B calculator, right? And today's world it's different, but
Sure,
it's an exciting industry if you want it to be.
sure, absolutely. And then in Burlington, is that where Canon Business Solutions is? Is that office over there?
It used to be, it's a Canon USA building that we're
Okay,
moving
sorry.
into.
Okay.
Yep.
I was my paths, my
Yeah.
back in the day was at one of those offices, and I liked it when you walked in there because you had all like the roll thread printers when you walked in the lobby and
Yep.
like the
The
latest.
showroom and all that. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of neat to see kind of how the sausage is made when you can take a look at all those machines there. Obviously,
Oh yeah, for
technology has
sure.
evolved quite a bit in a couple decades, but yeah.
It still puts ink on paper.
So you guys are headquartered in New Jersey, different offices throughout the country.
No, Canon Financial Services, we're a captive, right? So we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Canon USA.
Mhm.
Canon USA, uh, headquarters for Canon Americas is in Melville, New York, so Long Island. Um, and we're a self-contained subsidiary, so 95% of my employees are in the Burlington County area.
Oh,
The balance of them are relationship folks that are outside of the marketplace that are just supporting our larger relationship. So, we're a captive that provide financial solutions for, every state, local government, federal government, and businesses throughout the United States, just helping them, get more equipment. And, I it's funny because when you start really thinking about equipment finance industry, at least from where we are at Canada Financial, we touch every sector of the economy. And, I always tell my people our role is to help businesses grow. And so if we can do that, um, and I have a really good, strong, focused team that tries to look at the changing landscape and then come up with creative ideas to make sure we can ensure we get, more machines in field. My first charter at Canon Financial is just to increase the footprint of Canon products within the United States. So most people know Canon for cameras, and some know for copiers and printers, but you know, we have security systems, we do software. We have a huge medical division because we bought Toshiba Medical a few years back. And one of the things that people don't really know that we do, and it's one of our pillars, is we produce the machines that make semiconductor chips. So, and that is out in the West Coast. So, we really are a global manufacturer, and I think it's always fun when we bring a VIP or even employees up to our corporate office in Melville, and they go through the showroom and they see just the vast amount of equipment that Canon has in the marketplace, because most people just think Canon is cameras. So it's always fun to have, people go up to the showroom and see exactly, where we can make an impact. So
sure. I didn't know about the semiconductor stuff. I've seen some of the medical equipment in different medical offices, and I'm like, okay, makes
yeah,
sense, right? Imaging equipment,
and
usage-based
anything that
stuff.
puts
Yeah,
something on a
yeah,
piece of paper or any image is, yep.
yeah. It's great. It's amazing the adaptability of it, right? When you sit there and you take a look at the camera stuff back in the day, and then it's like everyone has one of these and they think they're a photographer with it. Like, oh,
Yeah. And it's funny today because now the younger generation, my daughter's age, the thing now is getting back to point and click cameras. So, you know, Canon actually had to restart up some manufacturing plants to go back to, those types of cameras, which is really great. I think the younger generation is starting to see the quality of the picture is very different than the quality on their phone, and appreciating that type of quality. So, we're seeing an increase in the amount of people that are buying cameras. So it's always fun to see that as well.
fantastic. That's fantastic. And there's so many things that you've talked about in the last 15 minutes that I was planning on unpacking over the rest of this episode. So I'll do my best to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Sure.
But one of the things I think of, and someone who's worked with Canon in the past and visited your office multiple times, is just kind of the culture that you guys have as an organization, and like the tenure of the tenure of your employees, Dominic. And I think you can attribute a lot of that to the success you've had as a president and your predecessors before you. But just when I walk in your office, it's just very welcoming. You see a lot of employee celebrations. Just kind of talk about like the culture and I guess why people stay at Canon.
Sure. You know, I think one of the best, um, one of the greatest things that's happened over the last few years is winning the culture award twice now from the Monitor. Um, and the reason I say that is, look, it's always great to be recognized in some way, shape, or form. I think when you get recognized and the voting in that recognition is from your actual employees, then I think that really resonates a little bit differently, right? So, um, I just think we've built a culture over there over the last, you know, 10 years where I think people feel like they're being heard. Um, we're a very inclusive place. And I think, we are being uh, the kind of shift in the makeup of our group has changed a little bit, although our average tenure of employee is about 11 years. So we do have a good base of people that have been there, for a long period of time. 51% of our employees have been there for at least a decade. So when you have that as your base, it's easier for you to grow, and not only that, to cultivate new talent. So I think one of the things that is interesting is, we are getting a lot of new college graduate talent who are looking for an opportunity in the equipment leasing industry. And, I think, you know, the what we have seen from that perspective is it's especially from a technology perspective, we're able to do a lot more things that we couldn't have done a few years ago. So, as you know, we instituted a new front end system, actually our lease accounting system. And with that, migrating from one type of software to another, at times can be challenging. And I'm not saying it wasn't challenging, but I think, you know, our employees are so adaptable to things like that, and they're so used to change that we're just blessed to have a group that really understands not only industry we serve, but on a daily basis comes in and tries to do new innovation and develop creative offerings that will help businesses succeed.
Mhm.
And I think across the board, we appreciate um, open lines of communication and ideas. And, we have a relatively flat management group. So I think that lends itself to being able to be closer to all the people on the floor and then listen to them. One of the things that I that I do on a very consistent basis is I have an event called Dunkin' with Dominic. And so 25 employees get selected to come in for an hour and 15 minutes, just have coffee and some snacks. But what it really is they get an opportunity for an hour just to fire questions at me and ask about our industry, ask about our business, ask about our company. And a lot of things have come out of that I would have probably never heard of, and we've instituted some change because of it. So I think when you believe in things like that and you actually act upon them,
Yeah.
then it has sort of a ripple effect. Your employees really feel engaged because something I said led to something that happened in lieu of, you know what, I'm just not going to bring it up. It's probably not a big deal. But I think if nothing else, what you'll hear from our employees is that they feel like they have a voice. And if nothing else, that we have a very open lines of communication. So I think that has led to, a really good structured group of people that are really willing to come in every day and roll up their sleeves and find a way to get things done.
Well said. And excuse me, the investment that you guys made in your platform, right? That was, like you said, nothing is ever easy. Disruption is
No,
never easy, but it was an investment that was made, and your employees appreciate that because it offers the creativity and everything else, and
that's
allows
correct.
different people to step up and take roles on that they probably would have been made available
Right.
if you didn't do that. From a from an intern perspective, are you guys just going to local colleges? How are you finding your interns?
Yeah, we put it out every year. This has been gaining momentum. It's, I don't know the exact number, but I know I think the 6 slots we had this year, we got hundreds and hundreds of resumes.
Really?
And so, it's one of the things that we really, really value. I think Canon as a whole values intern programs because I think, you know, um, most of the intern programs that colleges bring in, right, or the bigger names that we've all heard of. But I just feel, with our hit rate, if we can get them in the door, we know that a couple of those are going to continue to have employment. Um, and we've done a really good job. I mean, Amy Pagano, who heads up our HR department, and the people who are on my direct team, Joe Gallo and Lamont Melton and Don Bryson, we make sure when those interns come in that they can get access to all of us. And we really promote the industry. We get them introduced to ELFA. At the end of the day, they're going back for one more year and they have a decision to make in May. And if you perform well, we've even kept interns on through their final year and allowed them to put a few hours in each week. But if we keep them in the mix, come May, they do reach out to us and say, hey, do you have anything in this area? I would love to come at least put my resume in, see if I can get a job with you. And, those folks have already gone through most of the training program we needed. Not only that, they understand our culture. So the fit is so much easier than just getting someone right out of school. So, I think intern programs, just like a mentor program, is so valuable, but you really have to invest time and energy into it. Just saying you're doing it is one thing, but really, really finding a way to make them feel like they're part of your organization. Um, I think that's the key to our success. And, we had a couple from last year who were just got full-time jobs with us. They graduated and they're already working for us. And one of those didn't live near here. I mean, uprooted and moved to Mount Laurel area just for a job. So you're doing something right if somebody's willing to do that, take the swing and, not only get their first job out of school, but relocate from where they lived to come to the Burlington County area to work for Canon. So I think that says a lot to the program and to the way that we handle our interns.
No, that's phenomenal. I'm not going to ask you to share your secret sauce, but yeah, I mean, transparency is big because you think of, especially with these advancements in technology, right? As we sit there and say, okay, because what did traditional people that had got in the industry, they started off in what? Collections,
That's right.
customer service,
Yep.
certain
That's what,
entry level things. And I guess, and I know this is on some of these questions here, and I apologize, but with some like AI taking some of those roles where it's just like, okay, well, how do we get these people access? Like you said, it's access, right? So they can learn more. Because I'm in your camp, and that's one of the reasons I do this podcast every week is just to talk about this industry because it is kind of like the Hotel California. This is my 21st year, and I don't see myself ever going out of it. So
right.
this is a way for me to spotlight people like yourself who love the industry just as much as I do to promote it.
Yeah. And it's funny, you mentioned AI, and Canon Financial has been using AI for a very long period of time. So
Yeah.
we always find it's cute when people are bringing up that they're dabbling in AI now, right? But to that point, we've been very, very clear with our people. We have no desire to go under our current headcount. We can't handle anything less than for the size of portfolio we have the exact amount of people that we need. That being said, how we're using AI is to kind of move away from manual or mundane tasks for the employee and then allow them the space to do more meaningful work with us. As you know, there's always something to be done. And we're moving into a lot of new industries, right? So we need frontline support on those. Well, when you're kind of looking and trying to make sure your SG&A costs are in line, right? You can't just keep throwing bodies at things. And so that's where we're using AI. We're just using AI to basically, move away from manual tasks or manual entries and then allow those people to do just more meaningful work. And I think, one of the best things we did last year was we brought an AI expert in who didn't teach them how to use AI. It was not the intention of the program. Intention of the program was to educate them on what AI is and then how they could look at AI in their daily job. And so the message started when I went into the room before everybody got training and said, we're not replacing you, but I want you to think about the things that you do during the day that are not meaningful to you, that are mundane, that are just repetitive key entry things. Let's
Yep.
get them out of your way because we have all these other things, all these customer facing things that we really want to get to and enhance our customer experience. You can't do that if you're just hitting a button, 6 hours a day, right? So what we found from that is we encourage the folks on the floor to kind of push up to our IT department, and Don Brayson can attest, they have more things on their list now than uh, that people said, hey, can you move this out of my way? Can you move that out of my way? And we've done a good job. Customer service, you talked about the customer shared experience. Our customer service department, we were able to reduce the amount of email traffic by high 30% of
Right.
emails that were just, as we all get, those nonsense emails, but somebody had to read through the email in order to do something with it. And really, it was somebody telling them, we received your email. So now they're sending an email back saying they received the email. Well, that's, you think about, the amount of work that people have to do. Well, somebody has to read through that. So if we can carve all those out and then put the emails in front of people where people have legitimate questions or issues that need to be addressed in a timely manner, that's a
Mhm.
better use of their time. So what we're finding is, we can do more with a little bit of less, but not only that, we can do really good quality work and, just from ideas like that. So, and I agree with you, folks coming in, right out of school, they've been using AI for a long period of time, right? So they're able to also, have us look at things a little differently too, which is just really great.
Yeah. And you sit there and it's like, huh, can it do
Yeah,
that? Ask the question. Hey, Don, where's
yeah,
Don? He's probably like,
yeah,
oh, no.
yeah. It's like handing my phone to my daughter and going, wait, how did you do that? Can you show me that one more time?
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's great. And congrats on the success of the intern program. Because,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, and are you guys 100% in office or do you guys
no.
still do hybrid?
Yeah, we're still hybrid. We're in a couple days and we're home a couple days.
And how are the interns? I'm sorry to just focus on this, but how are the interns like with that? Do they like being in the office
Yeah,
more
this
than?
it's funny. It's at least the intern groups that we've had, I believe really enjoy being in the office. I think there's a sense of camaraderie. I mean, it's no different, Jesse, than when we started, right? You you're with these people a lot more than you're with your family, right?
Yeah.
So especially if you're young, you're early on, you're meeting all these people. Well, some of them are going to be your friends outside the office as well. So, I just think it's a good mix of home and in the office. And we make sure when they're in the office that we're including them in a lot of they're coming into meetings, they're hearing about strategic initiatives that we're doing for the year. We're putting them knee deep into opportunities and areas for improvement. And so it's not one of those intern programs where somebody spends a couple weeks learning about this department and a couple weeks about this department. That's not how we work. Each department selects a person for their department. So the person going for HR is going to do HR, they're going to do marketing, they're going to do corporate communications, they're going to learn about everything that happens in the HR department. Sales and marketing, same thing, customer service or collections or accounting. Because what we want them to do is, based on what their major is, we want them to get a really good shared experience. So that way, when they graduate, they know the group that they really want to be affixed to anyhow. And to your point, we always tell them, worst case scenario, take a job in customer service or collections with a leasing company. If you learn that piece of the business, either side of that, you can move into any other area of the company and have a great impact. So, it is a good testing ground, and a lot of our folks end up in one of those areas.
Sure. Sure. I just wonder sometimes, just thinking about my 17-year-old son, I have to take a job in customer service and collections. Like it's like, yeah, you got to kind of learn how the sausage is made,
That's
right?
right.
Before you can
It's
sit there and
100% right.
understand where you want to go.
That's right.
It's like, well, how do I do what you do? That's 20
Yeah.
plus years, dude. Good luck.
Yeah. I always look back on my career and I always said that I'm going to provide people the opportunity to stub their toe as much as humanly possible, because that's how, I learned the business back in the day. And that's when, and people still, especially the interns or my daughters have no concept of this, but that's when, I walked into Advanta and Gary Shivers handed me a yellows pages from some city, I think Albuquerque, New Mexico or something, and said, "Hey, here, make a living," right? And so you're calling every vendor humanly possible in a yellow pages book and making hand notes, right? So people look at that today and go, "What? I don't understand how you did that." But that was what you did, right? But I think having the opportunity to stub your toe and learn from your mistakes and figure things out is really, really great. I mean, I think it's a good way to learn. So, we give a lot of training and allow people to stub their toe a little bit and then show them through that process maybe how they could have done something a little bit differently. And I think those things are very valuable.
Sure. No, absolutely. And then sets them up for the most success. And more importantly, you guys can vet out real quick who you think is going to be a good long-term and asset for the organization.
That's correct.
So, I'm going to circle back a little bit to something earlier so Advanta was your first leasing company you worked for.
Yep.
Do you remember your first conference by chance?
Um,
Sorry to jog a
gosh.
little memory there, but I always like to ask this question because it's like this industry is so tight knit that when you talk about people's first conference, I
Yeah.
always was it.
Yeah, I remember my first conference. I remember, I believe I won a sales contest at Advanta first couple years in, and by winning, you got an opportunity to go to the ELFA conference, right? So you can imagine, you're a young
Sure.
person new in the industry, and you go there. And the one thing that resonated with me almost from the start was, you really have to learn how to build relationships, because that was all relationships. Everyone knew everyone, and they all were in all these different leasing companies, yet they all knew each other. They were friendly, and
Yep.
most of the time, at those conventions during the day is great, but then afterwards, everybody's having a cocktail, and it's like everybody's just there and present. And so, fast forward, I was asked to be on a board of directors this year, and I looked back and I said, how did this happen, right? So, and I'm very active in the ELFA, whether it be committees or capital connections or any of those things.
Yep.
But I have to tell you, I was really honored to be asked to serve on the board of directors, right? And I think it gives you the opportunity to talk about the state of the industry. And also, um, it made me look back on my first ELFA conference, and I just thought it was the openness, right? Because people were really willing to share insight, make introductions for me, show me how to get onto a committee. And that stuck with me a lot, because at the end of the day, relationships are everything in equipment leasing. I mean, it's, you know, everybody knows everyone. And it gives you a really good opportunity for, you know, you may not have an opening at your place, but you got a good candidate that well, you reach out to the five people and say, "Hey, are you hiring? I found a really good candidate." So, you know, I just think being there and learning and really, it's like anything else you go to. If you're going to go to an ELFA convention, I always tell people to be present, like really engage yourself, go to the breakout sessions, because quite frankly, that's where things are happening, right? There's deals being driven, there's
Yep.
ideas. Um, and you know, I just think, what's fascinating to me is there's, um, you know, that I still interact with today at ELFA events, um, that I can trace back to a relationship that started at one of my first events. And that, like you and I have known each other a million years, right? But you look at that, that's not uncommon. That's
Yeah.
pretty common in our industry. So, you know, I think what the LFA is doing now with getting, you know, next gen involved and those sort of things, I think giving more access is probably better. Because the one thing that we do know at those conventions, it's really a lot of the same people.
It
But
is.
now what I'm saying is there's whole influx of new people. And now I'm getting the chance to really meet a lot of new people and new faces that I haven't seen in a very long
Well,
period of time. So I just think what, you know, Leah and Deb and everyone that's doing it, the current board of directors of the LFA is just doing such a phenomenal job because it's, the landscape is becoming, it's changing a little bit as it needs to in any industry. But what I'm finding is there's just a lot more people attending things and a lot of new people. So I think that's just healthy for our organization in total.
yeah. I mean, I think of like like I agree with you 100%. Where we have like 1,100 people at the last ELFA convention.
Yeah.
When you walk in a room, it's like it was refreshing. There was like 30% of the people I didn't know who they were, and I'm like, nice, because it was like my 20th annual and my first one. I kind of caught a break, Dominic, where it was Wilma. So
Okay.
I was on a plane from Newark to what, Fort Lauderdale, and there's
Yep.
like five of us on the plane. Like maybe I shouldn't be going down to this thing, but I
Right.
kind of caught a break because there was only like 300 people that were there during that hurricane, and like Bob Rinaldi, Valerie Jester were
Yep.
like, "Who are you, kid?" I was 23, and they just kind of walked me around, and I met Chris Embaum, and that's kind of how I was able to get that intimate time and kind of bond with some people
That's right. You
throughout
you were
that.
you were sequestered because of the thing. So you got to make the best of this, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but it's funny because that particular group of people talk about that. You hear the folks that attended that one, it's like a bond that'll never go away. Everybody remembers the time we spent during the hurricane, right? So it's interesting.
yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you. It's a changed landscape, but I think it's changing for the better. So it's really cool.
And kudos to the ELFA. When I saw the new board, people coming in, yourself included, Ken Locke, Rick Matt, and just some fresher faces that are industry leaders, I'm like, good. Because, just me as, I don't know, I still consider myself to be relatively younger
Yep.
in the space. It was almost like the same people over and over again. So it was nice to get some fresh blood, but blood that had like strong leadership as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the board is really excellent. And I think, I always, equate a good board to one that is able to have really spirited conversation about important issues and not just rubber stamp everything. Because if that's the case, I mean, we're all very, very busy. You just don't have the time for that. But if you're really going to talk about things that impact your industry and have real conversations about it, I am all in. And that's what we have. That's the makeup we have, which is really great.
Yep. Well, excited to see that, and can't wait to see how things continue to change for that organization. Not to say it needed to. I owe a lot of my career to the relationships I've been able to build at ELFA events
Yep,
through networking. So,
agreed.
Dominic, I ask everyone who comes on the program to give me a fun fact about themselves. So, what do you enjoy doing outside of work?
Um, yeah, a couple things. So I'm an avid runner. So I like to stay very active. I'm very competitive that way.
Uh,
Even though I'm getting up there a little bit, I'm still pretty active on a daily basis when it comes to running. And another interesting fun fact, and one that we don't have to unpack in this conversation, other than me just stating what it is, I am a collector of German nutcrackers. So
Okay.
yeah, so
Maybe you'll have to send a photo and I can overlay it on
I
here. Okay.
really, yeah, I really like them. I just got
What's
into that.
what's the biggest one you have?
Oh gosh. Well, they're all authentic from Germany. Gosh, 2.5 feet tall, I guess. They're all working nutcrackers.
So it's not like the 15-footer that I bought at Home Depot that sits
Yeah,
in front of
very
my
it's
door during Christmas time.
that's good too. They're very nice as well.
It's not authentic though, so
It
just for that reason.
it's become a thing now at this point. I think I'm over 300, so I got to like tap the brakes a little bit.
Well, Dominic, my last question I have for you today is why should someone want to do business with Dominic Janney and Canon Financial Services?
Wow, what a great question. I guess what I can say is at Canon Financial, we focus on combining. We have a lot of folks that have deep industry experience, but we really look at it from a customer first approach. So we stress we're not here just to help you finance your equipment. We're helping you as a customer continue to grow your organization. So how we're going to do that, we're going to provide you flexible solutions. We're going to really dig deep and understand what your needs are. Because the one thing that I've learned from being a Canon employee is they want generational relationships. So we try to really build long-term partnerships. We're not about transactions. We're about growing a person's business and establishing a long-term relationship. So if that's in your wheelhouse and that's what you like, I would suggest coming and knocking on the door of Canon Financial. We think we can probably help you.
Perfect. Well said, Dominic. I really appreciate your time today, sir.
Of course.
And look forward to hopefully seeing you at the upcoming EF Cares golf event.
Oh, 100%. And Jesse, as always, these are extremely fun. It's great what you're doing for the association and the organization itself. And continued success, my friend.
All right. Thank you very much, Dominic. Appreciate your kind words. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.